Is it happening again with the EOS R5C? I don't mean the overheating. Where were you July 9, 2020? I watched the Canon EOS R5 launch.
Introducing the first Canon 5 series mirrorless camera, the all-new Canon EOS R5. A new game is about to begin. Are you ready?
This is the EOS R5.
Overheating.
Overheat.
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 Overheating issues. Warning. And is concerned with overheating in that camera.
Few moments later. Wow. Wow. It's happening again with the EOS R5C.
Battery life.
Battery life.
Does the battery last as long as they say it does?
So now let's talk about the battery life of the R5C.
But first, let's see what Canon say officially about the power consumptions or battery life. We supply LPE 6NH battery pack. 8K RAW 25p, 15 minutes of recording time. 8K RAW MP4 25p, 45 minutes of recording time. 4K HEVC 50p, 40 minutes of recording time. 4K XAVC 50p, 35 minutes of recording time. That is in terms of recording time. But what does that mean in terms of power consumptions? 8K RAW 25p, 10.5 watt. 8K MP4 25p, 11.2 watt. 4K HEVC 50p, 12.9 watt. 4K XFAVC 50p, 13.3 watt. What I'm going to be testing are the resolutions and also the frame rate, which I believe that I'm going to be using the most. And I believe that you're going to be using the most as well, which it will be 4K and also Full HD. In terms of the 4K resolutions, I'm going to be testing 4K 25p and also 4K 120 frames per second. In terms of the Full HD, I'm going to be testing Full HD 25p, Full HD 60 or 50p. The first test going to be 4K XAVC 25p using this LPE 6NH battery. Here, the settings are XAVC 25p, all intra 4K. We've been recording for 56 minutes, 43 seconds, and we have 4 minutes left of recording time. Okay, so we have recorded 1 hour and 3 minutes. 1 hour and 3 minutes of recording time that we have. So here, the setting is XAVC, 100 frames per second, 4K, all intra, and been recording for 33 minutes, 45 seconds, and we have 5 minutes of recording time left. I'm going to speed it up and we see the end. Here we have recorded for about 40 minutes before the camera shut itself down. That is XAVC 100 frames per second, all intra 4K. Here the settings are 1080p, XAVC 25p, all intra, and we have been recording for an hour already, and we are in our last 2 minutes of recording time before the camera shut itself down. That's 1080p. Do you see the trend? Here the settings are 1080p, 50 frames per second, XAVC. And we've been recording for 39 minutes, 29 seconds. and we are in our last 3 minutes. And I'm going to move it on, just come to the end. All right, so we have recorded about just over 45 minutes, right? 45 to 47 minutes before the camera shut itself down. So here, I'm not recording. I just have the camera on standby and playing with the menu and checking menu, changing menu, and play with the camera. My setting are XAVC, 50p, 1080p. But I'm still having only 40 minutes of battery life that is there showing. That would mean no recording at all. Okay, so here is the final result. And after that, I'm going to give you my final thought as well. And there is something interesting. So stay tuned. Do not miss that because it's really important. Because I don't believe that the problem is the battery, but I'm going to let you know. So in terms of the 4K resolution, here are the results. When you're recording 4K 25p, whether that's XAVC or HEVC, you can record up to 63 minutes of recording time before the battery dies. All right, in terms of the 4K 50p or 60p, I did not try it because Canon has already done it. And here's the result that Canon has pulled up. When you're recording 4K XAVC 50p, you can record up to 35 minutes before the battery exhausts and the battery dies. But when you record 4K HEVC 50p, you can record up to 40 minutes before the camera or the battery exhausts and the camera dies. But I did try to record 120 frame or 100p 4K. And when you record 4K 100p or 100 frames per second, so that you can record up to 40 minutes before the battery exhausts and the camera dies. That is in terms of the 4K resolution. Now let's look at the full HD or 1080p resolutions. So here again, I did try 25p and also 50p. I did not try 120 frames per second. I don't think that anybody is going to be recording 120 frames per second or 100 frames per second. I don't know why I did even with the 4K. But anyway, so when you record 1080p XAVC or HEVC 25p, you can record up to 63 minutes. So also then, when you record 50p, whether that's 4K or 1080p, the result is also a little bit similar. For 1080p, I recorded till 45 minutes, but I did not record 4K 50p. It would have been almost the same result. Therefore, the question is here, why these numbers are so close to each other? What the numbers similar, whether you record 4K or 1080p? Because I think, for me, my understanding is that when you record a higher resolution, therefore the camera works very hard, so then you consume so much power. That's why the recording time is less. But when you record 1080p, the resolution is not equal to 4K and also is not equal to 8K. But why 25p and 4K, no, why 1080p 25p, 4K 25p have the same recording time before the battery exhausted? So I think there is one element that's really also interesting here. When I put the camera setting on 50p XAVC, and I was not recording. I just playing with the settings and looking at the menus and all those things. And it gave me almost the same time as if I was recording 4K 50p, which around 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Guys, here really interesting. I inserted a new battery in the camera, and then straight away I can see the time like 30 minutes. And after that, after a few seconds, it jumped from 30 minutes to 35 minutes. But I have not inserted even card in the net, so we're just on a standby. And then after that, jump from 35 minutes to 48 minutes. And then from 48 minutes, jump back to 38 minutes. So then I decided to insert the card and then see. And then as soon that I insert a card on it, so then again, they jump from 38 minutes to 46 minutes and start recording. When it's recording, it jumped from 46 minutes back to 38 minutes. It's kind of, the time is jumping up and down. And I really find it really surprising. And I'm a little bit suspicious. Why that, the time keep moving up and down? And I think my conclusion, right? That's my conclusion. I think that's something that maybe Canon can explain to us. But I really don't think that the problem is in the battery or how the camera setting consuming the power. And I think that maybe the thing has a relationship with firmware. Right? Otherwise, why the time is equal, it does not matter what is the format, it does not matter what is the resolution, but it matters what is the frame rate you choose. For example, if you have 4K 25p and 1080p 25p, why you got almost the same recording time before the battery dies? And also, when you have 4K 50p and 1080p 50p, why you have the same recording time before the battery dies? So I think, right, the problem is a software or firmware rather than, the capacity for the camera just to absorb the battery so hard that, the battery dies that quicker. And if there's a firmware, Canon is able to resolve that with firmware update. And I think that is where the problem is. Like what people say, is it Canon apply again the triple hammer, like the way that is with the Canon EOS R5? I really don't know. It's only Canon that can answer that. But I don't think that, they apply the triple hammer. But I think there is a problem with the firmware, and that can be fixed. Otherwise, we cannot have that similar amount of time, whether that you're recording 4K or you're recording 1080p, when the frame rate is similar. Also, the other element that is really important as well is that when the camera dies in a video mode, when you go in a photo mode, you still have 2 bars left that can be used. But if you move to video mode and it shut itself down. So all those things put together, and I think that the problem is not the way that the camera consumes the power or the way that the battery is so weak that it does not last long, but it's related to firmware. And if it's related to firmware, that's something that Canon can fix. It's the same that, they fix the overheating problem with the Canon EOS R5, which is the software, is the timing that, they put there to do that. It's the same thing. And Canon, if you're watching that, please, can you look into it? And can you find us a solution? Right? Because otherwise, it's a great camera, and the battery problem, the battery life or power consumption could be the only downfall of this camera. Because without power, you cannot operate the camera. Okay, my friend. So, Hakuna Matata, I hope that you find this information very useful. And I hope that I give you something to think about it in terms of the battery life and power consumption of the Canon EOS R5. And I hope that Canon is going to resolve it. Okay? All right. So that's it for me today. And I always love, and the EOS R5, which I'm filming with, has just overheated and shut itself down. Okay, my friend. All right. Bye for now. Love.